Hi, this is Clay Staires once again with the Leadership Initiative. We're talking about winning in the workplace. We are now in session 7 of the team builder level, and I'm really happy to bring some information to you in this session, again, to help you as a worker to move into this thing called a team builder. All right, so I think we're going to have a good time in this session. I want to talk about some power moves. Things that you can do as a team builder, or things that you can do as a worker to set yourself apart from all the other workers. And you guys, that's going to be very important because I want you to understand that down here at this level, this worker level, this is like the masses, okay? This is the masses of status quo. There's tons of people, there's tons of competition down here at this level. So what we need to do as a worker, if we are interested in becoming more stable in the corporation, in the company, if we are looking at wanting to be there more long term, if we're wanting to kind of get ourselves into a stable position, then we need to get out of this worker level as quick as possible. Okay? Now again, it doesn't mean that we no longer do work. All right? It just means that we begin to move out of the masses. Because you guys, it's kind of hard to hear here, but the idea is that bosses fire workers. Pretty easy, okay? Because workers just bring a general value to the business. Now, obviously, again, work is important. We've got to get things done each day. But at this level, the work that you do is general work. So it's easy enough for me as a boss to fire an individual worker because I can get another individual worker in to do the same thing. I just happened to fire somebody last Friday, you know, just because they'd been with us for 3 weeks and it just wasn't happening, you know. I'd given them the instructions, here's what we want you to do. They weren't doing it, here's the evaluation. As a manager, if you are a manager watching these, here are some tips. We kept the paperwork. We have a 30-day onboarding system, and we do evaluations on a new employee on the day 1. We give them an evaluation on how they did. At the end of the first week, at the end of the second week, at the end of the third week. And things just weren't improving. So by the time we got into the third week, and then it's like, oh my gosh, this employee isn't really doing good. And then they call in, or they don't even call in, they text in, say, yeah, I can't make it, I'm sick, got a migraine. So it's like, okay, you're gone. So they finally did make it in last Friday to work, and we fired him, okay? Because we can hire somebody else just right in behind him. As a matter of fact, I fired him on Friday, and it was really easy because on Thursday, I had already hired somebody else. We did a group interview, so I had already planned on bringing in somebody else. So at this level of the worker, it's again, a very important level for the company, but the individuals are not as vital. So I want to encourage you, as we're talking about this team builder, if you're wanting to move, if you're wanting to create more of a consistent, more of a stable place in the company, then you want to move from just being a general worker to adding more value to the company by becoming a team builder. Okay? So that's why we're going through all this. How to win in the workplace, not how to just work in the workplace. All right, so how do I get out of the masses? How do I get, I've heard some books call these just the sea that is filled with bottom feeders. So we want to get out of that bottom feeder level as soon as possible and get up into the team builder. So today, as we dive into some of our notes, I want to give you some power moves that you can do as a worker to begin to draw people around you and begin to become more and more of a leader, more of a team builder, more of an influencer, more of a supervisor, more of a possible lead or something like that. Okay? So I think you're going to enjoy some of these power moves. Also, I do want to say one thing. If you are a manager listening and watching this right now, then you're probably going to look at these through a different lens. You're going to look at them through a lens of manager. This manager mindset, which we're going to get to in the next series. So there's going to be things that I talk about today as a team builder, and you're going to go, Clay, there's no way that can work. There's no way because I got to do this and I got to do this. And the reason why you're having that resistance is because you've jumped to a manager level and you have responsibilities of a manager. And so I would agree that there are some responsibilities as a manager that team builders don't have. So we're talking about responsibilities of a team builder, not necessarily responsibilities of a manager. Although, if you are a manager and you're struggling getting people to follow, if you're struggling getting people to do what you're asking them to do, if you're finding that, man, if I'm not here to watch over everybody and to keep track of every single step, then everything just starts going down. If you're in that spot, then I think that some of these steps, if not all of these steps, would be very important for you to begin to enlist. But again, it's kind of tough to do when you haven't done this at all and you're in this level. It can be hard to come back and start building. Okay, it can just be hard to do it. Doesn't mean it's impossible. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just means it's not as easy. Okay, it's not as simple to do that. So predominantly today, I'm talking about the workers that are looking to be team builders. They're wanting to grow in their ability to gather people around them. So let's dive into these super moves. Okay, remember we've talked about this, that only 32% of the workforce is actually engaged at work. 32%. Okay, so we'll say like 3 out of 10. You guys, that's your competition right there. That's your competition, 3 out of 10. You're not competing with all these numbers of people. If you can just step up into here, your competition of all of the workers that are here, 7 out of 10 are disengaged. 7 out of 10 are just showing up to get a paycheck. Remember that? Even the 2 out of the 10, or even the 2 out of the 7 are actively disengaged. You know, that's like they're driving to work planning on, what can I not do today? So that's your competition. So I'm just going to let you know, it's not difficult to break out of the masses because the masses are bottom feeders. Are you a bottom feeder? Are you just looking to be the status quo? Are you just looking to get a paycheck every day and that's it? If that's where you are, then it probably is going to be hard to break out. But if you want to win in the workplace and move up, it's not going to be that difficult to do it. Okay? It's not going to be that difficult. So why are managers not connecting with their employees? Primarily here, most business owners are just worried about their why. Most workers are coming to work, and the reason why they are disengaged is because they are only interested in their own, black pen, doesn't work. Gonna do that, okay? They are only interested in their own why. Every day that they come to work, I got to come to work to get my money. I don't feel good. I'm not energized, or I do feel good. I am energized, so today I'm going to do a good job. But we're only interested in what matters to us. If we want to move to the next level in the team builder, we have to begin to think outside of ourselves. If we do the circles, as I love to do, here's me, all right? But when I begin to be a team builder, I have to begin to think of others. And what is their why? I don't want to do that. Okay, then don't. But it'll be very difficult, or it will be more difficult to become a team builder if you are only thinking of self. Okay, so I just want to toss that out there. I think that is by far the main reason why only 3 out of 10 employees are actually engaged at work. We hear also from Harvard Business Review that the primary reason why people leave a job is because of their direct supervisor. They're not connecting. They aren't interested in following the leader because probably the manager got promoted because they were a great worker and they never learned how to build teams, how to build relationships, how to get people to follow them, especially how to get people to follow them through difficult and struggling times. Okay? So if we're not careful, we will put such a high emphasis on production that we forget to consider relationships. Now again, if you're a manager, you're probably sitting here. If you're a strong manager and in a manager position, you could easily be sitting there going, Clay, I don't got time for relationships. We've got way too much going, okay? We've got to focus on the task. We've got to focus on the work. I get that. But again, what's going on here is, remember the focus here, the worker? The focus is on the work. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. If we promote workers, good workers, to managers, they will bring that worker mindset into a management position. And so now here we are. Now, as a manager, my responsibilities have greatly increased. But if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. So as a manager, I'm just overwhelmed by focusing on tasks. There's so many things to do, and I begin to just bark out orders because I never learned. Remember, if you want it done right, find other people to do it with you. We didn't go through that season. Yeah, we've heard it. It makes sense. But when I say do it with me, I really mean you do it and I'm going to go do something else type of thing. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense to you. So if we're not careful, we can obsess with growth and busyness. We can obsess on the work, which again makes very, very good sense, but that is a worker mindset, okay? So worker mindset, so we got to be careful. We're trying to come up out of that. I love the little Dagobah moment here. Hopefully you get the Dagobah moment, all right? Hopefully you do. But the idea here, remember, to lead is to serve. To lead is to serve. The culture of your company is like gold. It's actually a part of the compensation. I've had a number of people that have worked for me in different positions, and they definitely have said no to other jobs where they could make more money because they have told me, they said, Clay, yeah, I can make more money over there, but my quality of life, the enjoyment of the day would not be the same if I went over there. Your culture is actually a part of your compensation. Your business is like a garden. So now, again, right now, I may be talking a little bit to the manager that's watching this. If you're a manager and you have some power over the culture of what the culture is going to be, your culture is everything. Again, if you're a team builder, you may or may not have power to influence a culture and to direct a culture. But I promise you, if you can begin gathering people around you, then within that group, you can develop a culture. Hopefully it's positive, and again, you need to make sure that that culture aligns with your company culture, or else you could find yourself, being promoted to customer status. So you want to be careful of that. But at the same time, as we begin to create this garden, this culture, this place where people are coming, like seeds into our company, we want to make sure that we weed out the garden from time to time, that there are some people that don't fit. There are other people that do fit. If we don't weed the garden, then even though we're getting some great growth, it's what we call wild growth, all right? And that can be dangerous if we get wild growth because there's not a manager or a gardener that is coming into the garden and weeding things out. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into some of these super moves here. Super move number one, we want to create an environment where everyone matters. It's a great line from Lee Cockrell. The guy used to run Walt Disney, all right, the resorts for I think 13, 14 years, something like that. He had 40,000 employees underneath him. And his mindset as he went to work each day was create an environment where everyone matters. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Disney World. Can you imagine going to Disney World and like Ariel, the princess, is like pissed off? You're trying to do something. She's going, I don't have time for this. You're trying to get a picture with your little daughter. Next thing you know, she's all mad and everything. It's like, whoa, wait, what just happened to Ariel? Having a bad day type of thing. But create an environment where everyone matters. You must treat people like they matter. How do you do this? Once again, you learn this here at the team builder level. If you're a manager watching this and you're going, Clay, I don't know if I can do that, you're probably going to struggle because you've already been promoted and now you have to backtrack and it can seem overwhelming. That's why it's so important that as a worker, we begin to move out of just a worker mindset. We begin to treat other people like they matter. Well, everyone's great. It's just everybody here at the company. It's just all wonderful. Everybody's just fantastic. Everybody's awesome. All right? You guys, if everybody's awesome, then nobody's awesome. If everybody's awesome, then nobody's awesome. So what we have to do is actually have some measuring sticks, some measuring tools. We talked about this in our last session with team builders. Remember when we talked about how do you determine who to invite and who not to invite? You probably want to be careful with just making a blanket invitation. Come and follow me, because you might get some people in that group that are going to make it really difficult for you. So you want to make sure that there are some measuring sticks along the way. How do you balance all the needs with new hires and everything else? Once again, this can be really difficult if you're a manager watching this right now and you're trying to learn how to lead. And here I am talking about relationships and building culture, because you have already been promoted to manager and you're in charge of culture. And you're in charge of all this stuff already, and you haven't had an opportunity to build it. So it can be difficult. It can be done. It just usually happens a little bit slower. So I love this idea here of what is the need and what is the why of your employees. Because as a team builder, you can begin to discover individually, what are the whys? Why are you here? Why are you here? What is the value that you see in this company? As a team builder, you can do that. As a manager, as we'll talk about later, as a manager, what we do is we unify everyone's why. Unify the why. I'm going to write that down, okay? That's pretty good. That might preach later on, all right? We want to unify the why. Because this is where you get energy. You can energize your workforce if you know the why, if you can get unity in the why. But as a team builder, again, may just be a whole bunch of different whys that are going on. I love this here. So most of the needs and the whys are pretty common with people. It's not, there may be some outliers there, but for the most part, you're going to find that most of the needs, most of the whys that people have are pretty common. The question is, do you know them? Do you know them as a team builder? Are you beginning to learn? Have you been having these conversations that we've been talking about? If you're a manager, do you know the whys of your employees? Do you know their drivers? Do you know their engines, the things that motivate them to make decisions? Because if you don't, it's going to be hard to lead them. About the best you can do is think of what their why is and keep inviting them to that. And they may or may not want to come to that.